Airbnb has partnered with a number of larger kind of corporate landlords, and they have rolled out these programs. I think they've got about 70 buildings so far. And again, these are major landlords who had a few buildings, but they're partnering with the landlord to allow tenants to short-term rent their units with a kickback going to the landlord. So this is this really interesting scenario, and the landlord can set all of the rules. So the landlord can set how many days a month they can do it.
Sorry, so the government regulating it?
No. Sorry, this is Airbnb expanding a new tool that they have down in the States.
Okay.
So in a lot of cases, landlords will not allow their tenants to put the units on Airbnb. They effectively won't allow them to triage out the units. And triaging is a pretty... it's another hustle out there that's gained some attention, but it's a hard thing to do, and a lot of landlords don't like it because landlords.
This is a service for the tenants that allows them to lease it out based on rules set in place by the landlord.
Exactly, and Airbnb has specifically partnered with a couple big landlords that own a number of buildings in major centers to roll out this kind of test drive of this program.
So super clever on Airbnb's part, because a lot of people try to do that, and a lot of big buildings offer a lot of the perks and amenities that people want to use. And I see a few of the big Airbnb companies here, they have partnerships with major landlords that own large multi-unit buildings to do that within their buildings, but the average person can't do it. They usually have to rent homes or own the property or lease from small time people that they can kind of sneak it in or get away with it. So that's an interesting concept.
But here's the other thing.
It's going to take so much heat. Like, the governments are going to hate it.
Well, the governments may hate it, but a lot of municipalities are more open to Airbnb than others. But I think this is also a way of Airbnb saying, okay, what happens if we get squeezed out of all of the micro, one-off, mom-and-pop Airbnb units?
It's great for Airbnb.
How do we keep our model going?
Smart.
Well, all of a sudden, they just picked up 70 buildings across major centers in the U.S., and what they're going to do is, say I own a building, say it's 20 units in there, and I say, okay, every tenant in this building is allowed to Airbnb their unit out. However, they're only allowed to do it, say, 120 days of the year, and they're not allowed pets, they're not allowed this, whatever. But in exchange for that, the landlord gets a cut of it. And I think it's about 20%. So Airbnb takes their cut, the landlord takes their cut, the tenant gets the rest. Well, the advantages to the tenant are obvious. This could help offset your rent. It could make your situation more tenable if you want to travel. You could rent your unit out while you're away. The benefit to the landlord is that you get this cash, and in fact, you might be able to charge more for the unit as well. So your actual lease is higher, and you get this extra flow of income. And then Airbnb gets all this new inventory, this new stock. What occurred to me was there's so many condos out there that strictly forbid having Airbnbs. If I were someone buying a condo as an investor...
To pause for a quick second, for anyone listening, like, an apartment building is owned by one singular company or like a main holding thing, and they all share the same rules. But the rules are determined and prescribed by that singular owner, whereas a condo building is an apartment building that's split into a bunch of units. And then as a whole, all of those owners will make the rules. So in this case, where there's 70 apartments, one owner can be like, yes, I will sign up with Airbnb. A condo building, if there's 70 owners for all the separate units, then all 70 need to say yes, or at least a certain percentage, 60% or 70% that are on that board need to agree with it, which makes it very, very difficult to get it when people are owners and they all individually pay and they're they're trying to protect the value of their condo. Yeah. So on average, most condo buildings have banned or outlawed.
Almost all,
all, like 90% probably plus have banned and outlawed Airbnbs. Sorry, continue, just so people know what you're saying.
So this is my question is, as a tenant, would you be more interested in renting a building that you knew you could Airbnb? And then as an investor, like, could you see this actually raising the value, especially on, say, new construction condos, if the condos were marketed as Airbnb friendly? Like, hey, you can buy this condo unit and then Airbnb the crap out of it. Or as a tenant, like, hey, you can rent this and... Honestly, and I knew this is what was going on in New York when Airbnb first started. People would essentially sleep 2 nights a week at their friend's house, Airbnb their unit, and pay their entire month of rent. So you can understand the appeal as a tenant to rent in a building where you would be able to Airbnb your unit.
Well, I'll speak to this a little bit. Shout out to my girlfriend. Can't say what building she lives in. But she has an apartment right now, and most of you guys know I like to travel, so we travel a lot.
Yeah.
And when we're gone, she has Airbnb'd her unit multiple times now. She has it down to kind of a system. It's not great, but basically she garbage bags all of her personal items.
Yeah.
And we ship them over to my place. And while we're gone, if we're gone for 5 days, she'll post it on Airbnb. Usually just have a friend do the handoff. But she's been able to make like
the cost of the trip,
$800, like a big portion of the trip, or
big
half
portion,
of her month of rent. It's just nothing to sneeze at. And realistically, we weren't here anyway, so the unit was going to sit empty. So it's been a huge win for her to do that. And actually, the building that I'm in is also supposed to have that system where they offer that service through the building. The building management has a system where they can run your unit while you're gone. It's a 60-40 split. I keep 60, they take 40. But they also can rent their unit or rent my unit for me while I'm away, assuming everything's in place. It works really well in my building because there's also a hotel in the building, so they share the services. So like the cleaners and the hotel management would actually run my unit, but that's also a system that you're seeing that in the building that I'm in now as well.
Would you, as a landlord, how would you feel about this?
As a landlord, I like the idea because I think honestly it would result in a higher income from the building.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a couple things that I have as concerns right off the hop is if anyone's living there long term and I'm having Airbnbers come through that are potentially here for a party weekend.
A good time, not a long time.
A good time, not a long time. Just there's a lot of other stuff. There's a lot of mess that comes in and out.
Yeah.
Instead of people just coming home from work with a briefcase or a backpack or whatever, there's people trudging through with suitcases. And I know when I'm going through a hotel with a suitcase, I'm not opposed to bumping into a few walls here and there or making a ton of noise when I'm with my friends going down the hall. The other thing is it's amazing, but the second this starts to catch on, I don't think it's going to be people that are singular users. It's similar to Airbnb. The people who make money aren't the singular users. It's on average, I think it's people who set up and have companies doing a lot of them.
But I think,
what I was going to say though is I see banks pulling back on this, and I've already seen it here where I have clients that have very well located properties, and when they end up going and doing these leases with these Airbnb management companies, even if the Airbnb management company provides a guarantee and they're just signing residential leases, the second the bank finds out that there's short-term rentals, and they're writing this into their mortgages now, the second that they see that there's short-term rentals in the building, the financing terms change, or they're not, like they want to change the mortgage, or they have to reduce the loan to value, especially now coming out of COVID.
But here's the workaround. In the case of these buildings, the units are all on fixed-term leases.
Individually with separate people.
Yeah, so every individual tenant has their own lease. It just happens that they as a tenant are allowed to short-term rent
every weekend and
and if they're going to do it, they have to do it through the Airbnb platform, and their building is registered so that the owner of the building is also going to get a cut. So
I think it's super clever for Airbnb.
And again, I wonder because we're going to do an episode here. I think it's our next episode where we talk about the trends. Maybe it's 2 episodes from now, the trends that we're expecting next year. And I have a lot of questions. I don't know where Airbnb is going to trend because I don't think our municipality happens to be the only one in North America that's going to crack down on this. I don't think it's the case. So them shifting towards, the experience Airbnb model, like the DJ Khaled thing that we talked about, or stuff like this where it's more corporatized. It becomes, almost like a hotel booking website with these big landlords. I can see them trying to continue to keep their growth in these new creative ways.
Yeah, no, I think that's really smart from Airbnb. I agree. I don't know what's going to boil out of it. Like, I think it makes a lot of sense, and you'll see a lot of people doing it. Is it going to result in higher base rents for people? Because it's like, well, my building's located in a great area. I already know. And then I honestly believe it'll be individuals who will make good money on this, and they'll be like, oh, frig yeah, I'll lease 10 units.
Yeah, I guess I'll pay the extra $500 a month because I know I'm going to bring in an extra $1,500.
Exactly. And then so people will slowly, every time someone leaves a unit, they're renting a one-bedroom $1,500.
Right.
The second they leave, the landlord already knows that Chandler's out next door doing $2,500 a month out of it, and he'll sign it instantly. So why would I even take it to market, or like, you know what I mean? Or I'm only going to kind of bring it around to Airbnb operators. So I think it's going to be really good for Airbnb. I think it's going to be really good for building owners. I see some difficulties on the side with banks, and I also see some difficulty for the average tenant. I think it'll be really good for people who are locked into a unit, protected by rent control, and have the ability to make that money. Because if you're in a building that's not protected by rent control and you're in a location where people around you are all making thousands of dollars a month from the Airbnbs, your unit's going to become very expensive very quickly.
Yeah, I hear you.
Wow.
Anyway, I just thought that was interesting
That is
because
super cool.
there's so much conversation around Airbnbs, and it just kind of lined up a little bit with.
I wonder if they'll try and set something up like that with condo boards where it pays into the condo association.
Oh my gosh, I think it'd be a no-brainer. I honestly, if I were developing in a condo, I don't think you can do this en masse because you're essentially signing up condos to be a pseudo short-term rental hotel. However, if I had a small marketable condo and the market wasn't yet saturated with this idea, I would 100% do a project where it's like, listen, this is the price of the condo, but we're marketing this whole building as you are allowed to Airbnb it. And I think you could get enough people in a major center, like say there's 60 units there. Could you get 60 people who are like, hell yeah, that sounds like an amazing idea. I travel 3 months of the year, or like I'm just an always on the go person. I want to buy that unit, provided it's like, hey guys, the most you can do is 90 days a year.
If it catches on, it's going to lead into like this whole industry of like lockable. I think they probably already have it, but like lockable furniture and stuff. So like you can have a lockable wardrobe. So when you're there, you just have all your clothes and stuff. And when you leave, you just lock the wardrobe and leave. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it makes sense.
But yeah, that would make sense too for people who travel and stuff. There's already, I'm seeing too now, there's a lot of these economies where if you're what's considered a permanent work from home person, they offer lease packages for 12 months where, okay, you do 3 months in Toronto, 3 months in Vancouver.
Oh, sweet.
And so you can like travel around, chase the seasons, and enjoy all these different kind of places. So I saw that was super neat. But yeah, that would be awesome to be like, I want to live and have my home base in Toronto. So I buy the condo in this condo building. They allow me to Airbnb it. I do have to give 25% of it into the condo board to help give the extra maintenance to handle the amenities that we have. But I still end up netting more money than I was by not being able to be here 100%. And doing these. The other thing is you're concerned when you're like, oh, I'm doing a short-term lease while I'm gone, and then you get back and you can't kick them out. Versus an Airbnb, on average, is a little easier to.
Yeah, and even if it's 90 days, but in a big market, you could probably conservatively get $200 like net profit a night conservatively.
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
not
you're
a small amount of
occupancy,
money.
But but
it's only 90 days, so you only count if you hit 100% occupancy.
Yeah, hit 70 days in there, making $200 a night. That's $14,000. Yeah, it's over $1,000 a month that you subsidize your.
Yeah, and you would always hit your 100% because it's not like you'll just continue to market it until you hit your 90-day quota and then you get cut off.
Right? Oh yeah. I mean, but like if you're gone for 3 months or something, then you have to do it within a certain period. But still, I think it could be an amazing thing, and I think it's smart from Airbnb to start implementing that because these are all the rules that are getting in the way of them having any more growth. And I think they're seeing, like you said, the writing on the wall where there's such a housing shortage. They're going to be cut out of so many single-family properties and these more, I guess,
micro operations
and miniature buildings.